Right? Who's been up Table Mountain? One. Okay, so a good few of you. Now, those of you who have been up Table Mountain, have you guys seen the dams up on top of them? Now they need live fresh produce, as in meat, fruits, and vegetables. So what the Dutch did, they started using this area as agricultural land. Now, do you guys see the big windows and then they alternate like this?
Yeah.
Do you guys see it? All right. There's nothing really special about that building, minus there's a pick and pay. But Strand Street, that's not the way you pronounce it. The actual name is Strandstraat. That is where the beach used to be. Alfred came down to set up the first, to lay the first stone for the V&A. Sank in one night, and then a maritime insurance company were like, no, we're not gonna, if any ships dock there, we're not going to insure them. There's 50 ships. Back then, I think the current of the city, not Cape Town as a whole, but just the city. As we here in South Africa, we call it the CBD, Central Business District. Right, Methodist Mission. This church has always been, this church finished being built in 1806, and it is built in a Gothic revival state. That's why it looks so scary. It's an absolutely amazing church inside, and they played a massive pivotal role during the apartheid. What they did is they had a really fun way of the non-white churches. Non-whites come to the white churches, so they would mix and integrate that into the way they protest. Also, the pastor of the church would always go have communion and sermons on Robben Island during the time of apartheid, so that the people could at least pray and that everything. Okay, I want you guys to please take note of that building over there. Do you guys see that clock over there that says General to the National Party? Does anyone know who the party was? The old apartheid government. They were the ones who were in charge of South Africa. Good guess? No. They were in charge of South Africa during the times of 1945 to 1994. All right. So they went on a state visit around the world just to go say thank you to the world for helping South Africa come out of apartheid. So when Nelson Mandela went to Germany, the then German Chancellor was like, hey, we understand what you guys went through. We went through the same type of ordeal. Because during apartheid, Germany went through the social war from 1945 to 1989, and the Berlin Wall was erected in the 1950s, causing the massive segregation between the West and the East. Then you can actually see the differences between the West and the East. On this side, you see the graffiti. If you just come around the corner, you'll see how it is bare and barely painted. You can only see the unit number of unit 214. You guys, well, not everyone comes with them, but we have a very special relationship because we. The steps are wet. Usually what I generally like doing is I like getting everyone to sit down, but I don't think anyone would want wet butts, so we won't do that. Alright, welcome to St. George's Cathedral, otherwise known as the People's Church. This is the second home of Archbishop Desmond Tutu. Does anyone know who that is? Yeah? Alright, if you don't know who that is, he's right over there. So Archbishop Desmond Tutu was a very peaceful man. He believed in peace, but he also did not like what was happening during apartheid. So he would often have these anti-apartheid rallies here in the church. Because the one thing that South Africa has always had is South Africa's always been religiously free. You can pray wherever, whenever, to whomever you want, and you shan't be prosecuted nor judged for it. So Archbishop Desmond Tutu used that to the best of his ability, because the only places where there was no segregation during apartheid were places of religion. Sorry, I have an insect falling on. So that was the only places where there was no segregation. So what he would do is he would invite everyone to come in, and they would sit in the church, and this is where they would plan their marches. So one of his most famous marches happened on the 11th of September 1989. All right, so what he did is he brought a rally of people, and they walked around here, and they walked around there, and they went to go sit down in front of the National Party's headquarters. Desmond Tutu and Nelson Mandela are having a bit of a concern. They worried that there's going to be retribution or revenge going to be brought upon South Africa. So now Nelson Mandela asked that they create a council called the TRC, otherwise known as the Truth and Reconciliation Council, where they allow people to come forth and admit to their crimes, so they can may get amnesty or be released, because a lot of the crimes were politically involved. So most of those crimes were assassinations. So, for instance, the government comes to me and they're like, Keegan, you need to go and assassinate X, Y, and Z, or else. So I don't want to kill anyone, but I also don't want to put my family and myself into jeopardy. Because please remember, South Africa was a bit of a tyrannical country back then, because only the white people could vote, and majority of the white people were Afrikaners, who were pro-apartheid. There was a lot of the English, the Jews, and certain Afrikaans people were very against apartheid, but majority of the Afrikaners, or the Boere, they would often say wit is reg, or white is right. So that was what they did. So they went out and they did the killing. So they would come to the Truth and Reconciliation and say, look, I was told by A, B, and C to go kill X, Y, and Z. Then they would get pardoned, or they would be sent to prison for a lesser sentence. Not only do they get it off their chest, they get punished for it, a lighter sentence, and they bring light to the real monsters of the apartheid system. And not only that, also the families who were victims, who were families of the victims, they get some closure, because first of all, I can't imagine someone just being ripped out your life like that and you're not sure why. So they get some closure, and the families also get a small financial stipend, because a lot of the people who were killed during apartheid were the sole breadwinners of the families, and that was years of no money coming into them. So the government gave them for small financial stipend. They're like, look, we know this is not going to bring back your loved ones, but this will at least help you out a bit. And that is how they slowly started bringing South Africa back to cohesion. And he is the one who coined the term Rainbow Nation. He is the father in South Africa, and they say this is the home place of South Africa's judicial system. So the most horrible and, in my opinion, dumbest laws to come out was the Immorals Act. So you would think something about the Immorals Act would do something about people running around naked because they're immoral, but no. Basically what that was doing was the race segregation, meaning all the races need to stay together and stick together. So, I as a white person, I wasn't allowed to make friends with anyone else from my race. I wasn't even allowed to look at them. Same thing for any other race. They weren't allowed to look at anybody or mix in the races. But here in Capetown, because we always kind of do things different here in Capetown, there was always mixing, especially between the coloreds and the whites. Because if you guys go to Woodstock, Salt River and Observatory, that was a bit of a gray area because of the textile industry. That was where all the clothes were made. So even if you go there today, it's still a bit of a funky area. Really, really cool place, and I suggest you guys go check it out. It's really, really cool. Street art there is absolutely amazing. Public bathrooms. There were certain places where Africans weren't allowed, or non-whites, as they were called, would not be allowed, which was horrible, in my opinion. I wasn't born in that time. I'm technically known as what is it, born free. I was born post Asians separately, then it was Indians, colored, mixed race, or then at the bottom would be African or Bantu. Stuck, if the pencil stayed in your hair and didn't move, you have to be African. Yeah, pencil wiggled, you were colored. But if the pencil fell out of your hair, you're white. The stupid person's pass.
Yeah.
So, you're from Germany, correct?
Germany.
Where in Germany do you live?
Hanover.
Now, in Hanover, do you have different suburbs or districts? In Sharpeville, the commander of in 10 minutes, 200 plus bullets were fired in those 10 minutes, killing about 22 people and injuring about 11 of them. If you guys want to do more research into it, just go into Google, type the Sharpeville massacre, because I could be very wrong. It's not very spoken about here in South Africa. But ever since then, there has been an international day of the Human Rights Day, was because of the Sharpeville massacre. That's why we celebrate Human Rights Day in the world. Alright. 118 colored persons were reclassified as white persons. That happened, that actually did happen. But my story comes from this one. One white person was reclassified as a colored person. So, during apartheid, some people fell in love with people from the other races, and they had children. But you were only allowed to see your child for 2 hours every 2 years in a police station. So for those of you who have children, can you imagine that? Only being able to see your child for 2 hours every second year.
Wow.
And it was planted in 1656 when Jan van Riebeeck, he actually brought this down with him. This was there. That was all his vegetation. You guys look over there, you'll see a lane down that way. Now, unfortunately, it has oak trees, but it used to have citrus trees because scurvy was the biggest killer on this. Yeah, I don't have any peanuts. But then, when the English took over, they started also adding flowers, and they turned this into a botanical garden. So, yeah, they're quite picky with what they eat. So, when the British took over, they turned this into a botanical garden. So, from 6 in the morning to 5 in the afternoon, this area is open. It's actually open nowadays from 7 to 7. If you guys ever want to come back to this park, it is free to enter. And if you listen carefully, you don't hear the hustle and bustle of the city, right?
찍었어. 저기는 못 찍었어. 다른 거. 이거 샤프 아니야.
And feed the birds, feed the squirrels.
난 샤프.
Yeah. Yeah. You feed one squirrel, you feed one bird, they all come. And if you like just put
과자
your
조금
hand
줬다가
out,
몰려드는 거 봐라.
eventually they will come and they will land on your hand. Yeah. Ooh, yeah.
우와.
So you guys can do that. Interesting. But on the top of the park, there is the Aziko National South African Museum. And have any questions?